Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Um, I was hoping that I was going to go first because it seems as if everything I could say or want to say has been said already by everyone here or the previous speakers. I'm not really going to bore you with the architecture of this, to be honest, because that wasn't what I really wanted to talk about tonight. I really wanted to look at how this, because as Chuka had introduced me, I wanted to talk about how this was actually put together, because as Toasting would actually say what it's about or what it's like to build in Elisha, it's not easy at all. This wasn't actually meant to be the first slide, and I actually want to apologize for how my presentation is going to look compared to all the previous ones. Because Chuku just said, send me 7 slides, and I was like, okay. I went to my phone, and because all these pictures were taken by me. Tosin has always said, you need to get a professional photographer to take your pictures. So Amanda, I have quite a few friends who are actually saying they want to take pictures of some of our buildings. Anyway, this particular project was done like about 4 years ago. And prior to this development, something interesting actually happened. 2 years prior to this development, some client had approached us to have a beach house designed. It was actually the second beach house that we had done. I had done one way back, actually, when I first moved back. That wasn't completed. So 2 years prior to this one, I told about a site in Elisha. It was my first experience in Elisha because I was used to a carrier. So I went to the site, did my contextual studies, took pictures, blah, blah, blah. We came up with a design. I mean, it was somewhere along the lines of what this one was, but completely different because they didn't really want to have a proper house. They just wanted something along the lines of what Tosin was talking about earlier, pavilions and somewhere where they could just go out to for the day. So I'm not very technical with these things, especially with PC, so I should use that one. So this is the picture that was taken 2 years prior. And, taking this picture, there are actually more pictures, obviously, but this is the one that I thought of just showing since I was limited to 7. So, the design was done for this, and we had gone through the whole process. We had gone out to some kind of tender. Actually, there's another thing about Elisha. There are only a few builders who actually are allowed to build whatever it is that you design. 2 of them, 2 in-laws. And I was like, Tosin has done about how many beach houses now? 9. No, as in in that area. 4. But I can assure you that those 4 were probably done by the same guy that did. Actually, I do know that they were. But so 2 years prior, we had gotten to the stage where the building was going to be constructed. We'd gone out to tender. The guy had given us a price, and at the last minute, the client had pulled the plug. I don't know why. The wife had gone to give birth to a baby, and it just died. So that was it. So fast forward 2 years later, I was just somewhere, and a friend of mine said he had someone he knew that wanted a beach house. I said, oh, really? Not a problem. I have one that I'd done earlier. So, I'd shown him something that had been designed in Elisha, and he was like, oh, yeah, not a problem. I like this, blah, blah, blah. So the interesting thing, why this picture is so important to me is that when I now went back to do my studies of the site, lo and behold, it was exactly the same site. Because the thing that happens in Elisha is that you actually lease land for a number of years. And because of their economics or how they operate out there, they expect it built immediately. And if you don't, they just lease it to someone else. So it just became so kind of this was meant to be kind of, This particular client, the interesting thing about him was, we had done a design. I think it's in one of the pictures that will come up later, but the thing was, he didn't really have a brief. And because he didn't have a brief, we kind of helped him create one, but we created in such a way that we were going to go all out. And he didn't really object to it, because I think he was just trying to show off. It was like, I want the baddest thing ever, And we're like, okay, no problem, we'll do that for you. So, like I said, I don't really want to talk about the architecture because not really much to say, but in terms of this is not really showing everything very clearly. The interesting thing is like I actually did all these drawings myself. Usually I don't do drawings, but those images were created by myself, those 3D images that you see there. And in order for this to happen, because usually most of the projects that we actually do in our office are built by us. So we have an understanding of how we actually get the results from what we've designed. So having to work with someone on this project was a little bit of a turnoff for us because I felt like, because one of the processes that we go through, actually that's what I wanted to talk about, process, but one of the processes that we go through in our office is to actually have like a general design or concept, and then we formalize it when we get to site. And I know that sounds kind of like crazy nowadays, especially when you have clients who are so shrewd, like you were saying earlier. But with this particular client, he wasn't much of a problem. So like I said, we had a design, we went to site, and I knew that it was going to, because I wasn't going to do that many drawings because he wasn't going to pay for it. So what we did was we said, okay, we'll get you a site architect to help, but I just still said to myself, I don't think that they will be able to sort of like get the true essence of what it is that we were trying to do. So initially when the project started, it became one of those things where we had to go by boat, these power canoes that you have that go out to Elisha. There's a very funny story about that actually. On one of those trips to the site, on my way back, it was raining quite heavily actually, the clouds were like dark. And the guy that was like driving the boat kept getting this phone call that, where are you, where are you, where are you? And, I was like, who's that? He said, he needs to pick up somebody at the jetty. And, I was like, oh, really? Anyway, then the rain started pouring. We got all completely soaked. And I later found out who that person was that was actually going to get that same boat. It was good old Toasty. I was thinking that, that you've been taking that same boat. I don't know how you did it. Because if I was to have continued with that boat, I guess this project probably would have been a complete different project. So, like I was saying about the client, I think he actually helped achieve what we did achieve here because he was very keen and he was very, he had like really deep pockets, I must admit. Because there's a picture here, this one here, that the fake grass was actually imported and air freighted from Germany. And what I liked about him was like I said, we always try and make things happen on site when we're there. So anything that just springs to my head when I'm thinking about this project, later at night I'll call him up and say, how about we do this? Like, yes, let's do it. Let's do it. Because I just want to show off, But I think even though we were like, given free rein, but we still had to be meticulous and we had to have like some kind of control over the architecture. I know I keep going back to because I said I was going to talk about it, but anyway, we just had to mold it in such a way that it had meaning. And that's what we try to do here. There's something interesting about this particular project for me. I was going to say one thing that I never thought I was going to speak for more than 2 minutes, so I apologize if I'm going beyond that. But the interesting thing for me about this project is I posted it on Instagram some months back, and it got a lot of sort of like interest, but not about the interest, but more about the comments that were actually made. And Chuka and then there's another guy called Steven were like going back and forth with some comments about this, and I was thinking, are they really talking about this building? Or because they found deeper meaning in what we had tried to do. But when I stepped back and I kind of like went through some of the things that were being said, I think they actually caught on. Most people that know me know that I don't really say much about what it is that we do. I just do it and I show it. But to actually read some of the things that were being said about it, because I know that a lot of passion went into this. Luckily, we had a client that allowed that passion to sort of like radiate. This project actually means so much to me because I said to the client that Don't ever tell anybody that I was the one responsible for this project, because I know for a fact that the kind of relationship that the client and I had in order to be able to do this, not a lot of clients can actually be that way. And I know that that might have limitations in terms of like how we design and build, and that it might not come out as interesting, or the journey that we actually went through on this project might not necessarily come out like that. So, like I said, it wasn't really about showing the idea behind the architecture, but just for the sake of being here and just trying to put some light or shed some light on what it is that's going on. What we have basically is we have the main building there, and we wanted to play around with different planes and levels, because I don't know if anyone's really been to these beaches. The way the sand relates to your feet sometimes can be a pain. So, we wanted people to sort of like come out, be in a space where everyone can actually have their own zone, even if you're all together as one. So we sort of like played around with levels. We wanted it to sort of like embrace that swimming pool, which was like, in a way, the focal point of the beach house. However, it's the ocean in the distance that you can see in that picture that is actually what has brought everybody to this space. So I'll just flick through some of the things that I'm seeing here. There's actually something there's a reason why this picture was actually taken, because after we had completed what we did, the guy went and got one of those typical carports to cover this pool table, and I thought, man, I think you can actually see in one of the pictures. There it is, there. And, it was something that I felt like, man, why would you go and do that? But I said, well, it's your beach house. The funny thing about the solid walls, the fence walls that surround this, was that the builder was actually meant to put your typical fence around this property. And I said to him, I don't think we want to. I said, oh, guy, you should do it now. I said, but why? He said, if you don't do it, we won't have work for next year. Because the reason why they actually specify that fence is so that every year, anyone that owns a beach house has to redo it. And that's how they sustain their livelihood in that area. Like I said, not much of a talker, and I feel really bad that, I didn't have enough pictures to actually talk about the architecture. But this is all you're going to get. I deserve some accolades.